All right, good. So, okay, it is all working then. Brilliant. So, what we're going to talk about today, there's been... I don't know whether I was going to talk about the hoo-ha last week. I was thinking of doing a video, actually, as I say, on WoW Flash last week on the... that post from the community manager. But I've looked at it and I've thought... Although in theory, I always quite like to discuss whether or not the way they respond as a PR type of thing is sensible or not. Ultimately, there's nothing to talk about in that particular case because absolutely everyone was against that player. The ESO video, good. Yeah, there's as I did a Q&A at the weekend as well, which I'm going to do each week now. And obviously, I'm not going to start spamming the channel with ESO videos because I'm not even playing it that much. But I do want to play it regularly. And yeah, I did have an idea for a series of comparing for different parts of the game, comparing ESO with WoW. So, for example, crafting, how that works, how leveling works, how you deal with alts, how PvP works, stuff like that. I do have a slight issue with it, in that I have to be a bit careful the way I pitch the video. It is going to take more thought than I initially thought, because when I do these videos, anyone watching these videos who doesn't watch any of my other content will immediately think I'm bashing WoW, because on all of these things, I actually think Elder Scrolls Online is better than WoW. So then you might say to yourself, well, why are you doing so many WoW videos? And then the reason for that is simply that where WoW does kill it is endgame content. And I can't do a video comparing endgame content for WoW and Elder Scrolls Online because I don't do it for Elder Scrolls Online. Well, yeah, there is that as well. But just everything. All the things I get annoyed about in WoW are absent in ESO. But WoW does have really good things. Well, like when it comes to group PvE, I think the way it manages it, especially for a casual player, is better in World of Warcraft. Like with Elder Scrolls Online, although I've been doing a few sessions, I haven't dared to get myself in a group for a dungeon or anything, because I don't even understand what's going on. Like someone was saying yesterday, oh, I want a group for Fungal Grotto, which is a low-level dungeon. But the problem is, because of the scaling thing now, there's also high-level versions of it that I would not be able to do on my low-level character that I'm leveling up at the moment. So I don't actually understand in the chat what they're asking for. But, oh yeah, the conversing. I am actually going to agree with that. A lot of people like that, the fact that stuff is voice acted. I mean, even in Legion, you notice it's in Legion a lot more now, isn't it? Where you've actually got voice acting for some of the, especially world quests, but other quests as well. It seems to be very popular. Hiya. But I don't like it. It's the thing that put me off Star Wars The Old Republic to begin with, because I got that game... I was in beta, I advanced ordered it, but when the day it released, I didn't play it because the beta had put me off. And it was that voice acting of everything that I didn't like. Really didn't like it. And I'm not keen on it, no, but I'm in a minority on that one. A lot of people really like it. And they must do, because I say World of Warcraft even do it a little bit now. And maybe in the next expansion they'll expand it further, who knows, I don't know. But it does seem to be the way it goes in a lot of MMOs. Oh yeah, well we're talking, it might have been yesterday actually, we're talking about like TBC zones and which was our favourite, and I was saying Nagrand was my favourite. I didn't give the reason why, but the reason why Nagrand was my favourite, TBC, not the, although I quite liked it in WoD as well, but Spires of Arachne was my favourite in that. But in TBC Nagrand, what I really liked about it is you went to someone and you got a load of quests, and all you had to do then was go to an area and kill everything in sight until all the quests had completed, and then go back. You know, obviously the Nessingwary ones were like that, but so were the others, really. You just went to a hub, got all the quests, went out, killed everything that moved, and then went back and turned it all in. So it was the most straightforward one. Duel you? I don't duel. I mean, that's another thing. Yeah, we've had some people join our guild recently who've joined from a PvE server, which is where I wish I was. I don't like PvP servers, but they're gorging on PvP now. They love it. They're just going around ganking people and you know, doing what some people laughingly call world PvP. They've gone absolutely insane. You know, they were intending to do loads and loads of Mythic Plus dungeons to, like, you know, to push the high ranks. Because we already have a group that push high keys in our guild. They were going to have like a competition who could get the highest. They seem to have abandoned that largely. And I'm not saying they don't do Mythic Plus, but they're more interested in the PvP. They've gone mad. But well, I can't stand it in this game in WoW. That's what I don't like, because it's all. I mean, that's the irony with talk about Elder Scrolls Online. With this new expansion, they've just, and I haven't had a go at them yet, I will do, but they've just brought in Battlegrounds. It's the Battlegrounds I don't like, because that's not, it's not like simulating warfare, is it? Because you're just taking a flag. There's no, you're not like taking out a fort or anything like that. And when World of Warcraft have tried it, they've made a right mess of it. You know, Winter Grasp and that sort of thing. It was a pale imitation of what it should be. Yeah, ganking I don't like. Like, even if I'm on a world, or like a world quest boss, like a tough one, an elite, and I'm attacking it, I actually try and angle myself so that if there's a horde player on it as well, that I minimise the damage to them. There's sometimes when they still get killed to my cleave. There was a time when I used to just not cleave, I would just do single target, but so much of the talents I'm using now is AoE that I can't actually do, I can't even do that without auto-attacking. So my attitude now is, well, if they can clearly see that they're going to get killed, like, why don't they just tag it, stand out of the way, I'll kill it, I don't mind. Evening, and just get out of the way, because that's what I do. If there's a load of horde at a mob, I just get a sneaky tag with a judgment and stay out of the way. What's the point of running in and get yourself killed? Really silly. But, well, that's the other thing. You see, PvE and PvP should be completely separate. There is no justification for having them the same, in the same place. You know, you should have a dedicated zone. I don't mean I mean a huge zone, like massive, that's your PvP with forts and stuff like that, and other minor objectives. Because I can't, for people who have only experienced PvP in games like World of Warcraft, you probably can't appreciate just how much fun it is when you play one that's properly designed for it. Because, you know, there's all sorts of other jobs that you just don't do in World of Warcraft in PvP. Like, for example, scouting. This was something I remember from where, you know, because in Elder Scrolls Online, although I've done a bit of it was purely as casual, I've never been in a guild with it. But Warhammer Online, I was in a guild. I played that for quite a bit while I was, when I decided to stop playing World of Warcraft after Tier 7. I played Lord of the Rings Online first of all, then I played Warhammer Online. And I used to love it, you know, because you'd get some people who'd think, well, you're no good in the big groups, so you just go and scout, see who's coming, give people advance warning of what's happening, maybe even cut off reinforcements. So if there's a few people coming one at a time, you could maybe ambush them. These sorts of things are just not done in World of Warcraft PvP. But they add another dimension to the whole experience and make it a lot better. And as I say, when you've got this fort situation, you're not just bashing your head against a brick wall either. You're actually thinking about it. You're discussing within the group how you're going to do it. What gets discussed in a battleground, even a rated battleground? All you're talking about is you go there, oh, they're trying to go to the mine, we'd better head them off. That's rubbish. So there should be proper world PvP. But world PvP is not ganking people who are trying to do PvE. That's not world. That's just being an arse. What it should be is a dedicated zone, a huge zone with proper PvP objectives to encourage proper warfare. I mean, the original Alterac Valley sort of did a bit of it. You know, that was going on the right lines, I felt. That one that could last for hours. You know, like a day or something, or half a day. But even that was limited. And of course, as soon as, I think it was TBC, it was over so quickly, it was ridiculous. But they won't do it. They won't make any changes. Because with some things, like Blizzard are really good, and they'll go, okay, this is a really good idea, we're going to do this, and they go full into it. And then there are some things where you can sort of tell they're not right keen, and they just do it tentatively. But because they're doing it in a half-assed way, it doesn't work. And then the people who were not that sure about it in the first place just take the failure to be evidence why it's no good. I mean, you could argue that about garrisons. What people wanted was player housing. What we got were garrisons. And so, you know, people who don't want player housing might well use garrisons as an example. Well, people don't want it. They didn't. You know, we gave it them, and they didn't like it. And the same thing with Wintergrass. Wintergrass was a disaster, really. It was a failure because it was half-arsed. It wasn't what it should be. Well, I mean, everyone has their ideas. I mean, I have my fair share of stupid ideas, I'm sure, as well. But I don't think Blizzard will do it. Like, there's certain things that seem to be or seen as an integral part of the game and not to be changed. I mean, I'm not saying they're sticking the muds. They have changed things a lot. You know, they do reinvent the game. That's the only reason it's going on as strong as it is now. But, you know, there's just certain things that they just seem to be old-fashioned about. Maybe give new rewards for invading cities or villages in WoW. But again, like, all you're doing there is screwing over someone's PvE experience when you're invading cities, and especially villages. I mean, I remember when it was a typical thing years ago now, even on PvE realms, to start a fight, you would go and just basically kill some NPCs. Well, that's fine, but what about if you're someone leveling up and you want those NPCs because you need to turn your quests into them, or you've killed the flight master and now you're stuck, or you're taking a very long time to sort of move to where you need to go. So no, proper dedicated areas, really dedicated one. And even if it's a copy, I mean, they could make it a copy of zones. So if you want to have like a series, let's say you combined Elwyn Forest with Redridge Mountain, say, as part of that zone. Obviously, you'd have a Horde equivalent as well. And, you know, the idea is that Horde, what they need to do is to attack some watchtowers and things like that. There'll be smaller forts to take out in Redridge Mountains and take out Goldshire. And then, because that's what Warhammer Online, how that worked. There was like a ladder sequence, and you had to take out certain objectives, and then that would allow you to attack the main city. So maybe you can do that, and if Horde control all these things at any one time, then that means they can then launch an assault on Stormwind itself, where there are extra special rewards you can't get from anywhere else. So then everyone piles in because, you know, Horde and Alliance, and you end up with a huge siege of Stormwind. And then you can have a similar thing with like with Orgrimmar and Durotar and I don't know what else, something else, a similar sort of thing there. Some sort of like mini ladder campaign where you've got to take objectives, and if you can hold, and obviously the other side will try to retake them, but if you can get to a position where you've taken all of this stuff and you're holding it, then you can launch an assault on the city. That may work. The only downside is the same reason why it didn't always work in Warhammer Online is because it's two factions, which means if one faction's much more powerful or larger than the other, then it's a bit of a problem. Whereas, as I say, Elder Scrolls Online solved the problem by having three factions. So if one faction's really dominant, well, the other two will just gang up against it. But anyway, as I say, I just think, you know, the game is so old now that PvP is a lost cause in World of Warcraft. So I just don't see that one working. Just having a look if I missed anything there. Yeah, but not everyone wants to do that, Jack. So you say, yeah, true, but if you quest giver or whatever gets Callisto to you, stop playing, but you make a group and take some revenge. Well, not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone can do that. If you're a new player, you don't know what's going on. You just come into the game, it's like, what's going on here? So no, I just think if people want a PvE, they should be able to PvE. You shouldn't have a system where someone is forced into PvP. Because apart from anything else, the people who will do this, I mean, we're talking most about, I mean, this isn't ganking, admittedly. This is just trying to start a huge brawl. And you can understand why people did it before Battlegrounds came in. So in vanilla, before the first Battlegrounds came in, I was playing at the time, and you understood it. You sort of, and at least they were mostly in mid-level zones, at least, not all the time. I seem to remember, you know, there were ones in South Shore, which I think was common to a lot of realms, but also on the realm I was in, I don't know whether this was as common. Arathi Highlands also was a bit of a flashpoint. I can't remember the exact name of the place where a lot of people would start trouble, but you'd usually get a load of scraps there. But mostly it's just interfering with people's PvE, and I just don't think you should do that. Once you're a PvP zone as a lobby and getting ganked repeatedly. Well, it was stupidly annoying because I remember doing it as well, and it was just like, what are you even getting out of it? You know, for a level 60 hitting me on my, like, I especially remember my Warlock, because for my Warlock Fellstalker, I think it was, quest, I had to actually go into a lot of Horde territory. I had to go, and I was running, I had no mount, I was running there all the time. So it was super annoying because I was doing a lot of running, and it was taking me a long time anyway. And then just for some hunter to take a pot shot at me, it's like, what are you getting out of it? Seriously, what are you gaining here? You know, I'm level 30 or whatever I was. And yeah, and that is the other thing. Because, I mean, this is what gankers will do as well. It's never a fair fight, because they won't gank you if they... I mean, sometimes people are a bit stupid and they don't actually pay attention. I mean, it's one of these situations. Usually, when someone tries to gank me, I just assume I'm going to die because I assume they've weighed it up. But sometimes they haven't. Sometimes they haven't actually checked me out, and I absolutely slaughter them because they've just picked on me for no reason. But most people, especially seasoned gankers, will weigh it up, and if they don't fancy taking you on solo, then they'll make sure they've got a load of mates first. So they always stack the deck. Stack the deck. Sorry. That's pardon my spoonerisms, in favour of themselves. But no, I mean, it's decent in some other game. I mean, a lot of MMOs seem to get it quite wrong. I mean, Star Wars: The Old Republic's another bad world I can't even play at the moment. I mean, I do miss that from invading the Gnome City. We invade the Gnome City at any time. I can solo the Gnome City, and yet all the gnomes in Azeroth can't retake it. What's the point? No, I was quite, even though I wasn't playing Warhammer Online at the time, I was quite sad when I found out that it was that they'd stopped it. But they just made such a mess of it. They really didn't know what they were doing. But the PvP, and I am told, I never played this, but I was told by people who were playing who's in my guild, that the people who did Warhammer Online, a lot of them did Dark Age of Camelot, which had a very similar PvP system, which I never played, but you know, I did enjoy this. Because, as I say, for a lot of years, because WoW was my first MMO, I just assumed that I didn't like PvP in MMOs, because I didn't like it in World of Warcraft. And then I played it in Warhammer Online. I mean, I played it in Lord of the Rings Online as well, but it was, I think, by the time I was playing Lord of the Rings Online, it was already sort of clear that it was not going to be a really success, even though it's still going now. So it's successful in that it's kept itself going, but it never took off. And so going into PvP, which was a really strange system it had, I didn't actually get into any battles, so I couldn't actually tell you whether it was good or not. But yeah, when I played Warhammer Online, it's like, oh, actually, you can have good PvP. Screen capture when you saw the Blizz post saying Horde doesn't have statues because they want to use rocks to fling at GM. Oh, yeah. I was surprised they said that, because usually, as I say, the Gnome Mafia come out in force, anything like that. It may well have been Muffinus. I think he does have a soft spot for the persecution of gnomes, because I seem to remember it was him I was responding to last year with something about gnomes. And yeah, oh yeah, I got all the attacks then. It was quite hilarious. It's what prompted me to do my Gnomes Are Not the Master Race video. But yeah, this is the thing. I mean, someone said on the response to that, why don't I just go Horde that I can kill gnomes? No, I can't, because to kill gnomes as Horde, you have to be in PvP. Whereas to kill gnomes as Alliance, well, you can do that in PvE sometimes. You have to be cunning. It's not as easy to kill them as it used to be. It used to be very easy to kill gnomes in vanilla. In a raid, I used to make it my mission to kill gnomes. Some of them put me on ignore because I was too successful at it. Never risking progress, obviously. I was a responsible officer. But if we weren't going to risk a kill, I would absolutely kill the gnomes. Had a heal in my guild that seemed to be focused on getting hunters killed. I don't know, can you kill hunters these days? The only time I've ever been able to kill hunters There's no such thing as off topic on this show. The only time I was able to kill hunters, and again I got ignored for this as well, was on the original patchwork, like tier 3. Because what would happen in the event of a wipe, usual thing, all the warlocks would go off and hellfire to get themselves out of repair bill. And all the hunters would go off and feign death, again, to get themselves out. It wasn't for wipe recovery. We had wipe recovery. But it was to get them out of a repair bill. And then I came upon a cunning plan. Because what I used to do earlier in vanilla is I would direct all the paladins to go off and heal the warlocks. Because warlocks were predominantly gnomes. And so if we healed them until the boss ate them, then they got their repair bill. Or job, life's good. But the problem was, by the time Naxxramas came around, their gear was so good that they could hellfire themselves. They could damage themselves quicker than we could realistically heal them up a lot of the time. Especially if they actually managed to successfully get out of line of sight. It didn't take long to kill themselves. Whereas the hunters were good game, because what I used to do is go over to a hunter that was feigning death. I'd wait until I was virtually the last one alive. And I'd wait till I got aggro, and then I'd stand on top of the hunter, and as Patchwork was about to clobber me, I would press bubble, and then it wouldn't hit me, and it would kill the hunter. They didn't like that much. I used to alternate, though. I didn't always pick on the same hunter. I rotated around. So it became a bit of a game then to see which one could hide. Because they knew I didn't have time to properly check the minimap. So, they would just run off and try and hide. Not just from the boss, but from me as well. But one of them didn't take it well, and he put me on ignore as well. But you couldn't have gnome hunters then, so that was disappointing. I didn't mind gnomes putting me on ignore. But no one else, really. What I did or tested on the latest pit, apart from legendaries, I was just really testing gear. That's what I was doing. I was testing legendaries and trinkets as well. Like I don't know whether the trinkets have changed. They seem to have done, but I'm not 100% on what they were like before when I was first testing them. So I've completely forgotten. But a couple of them seem to be a bit... Unless, of course, I'm getting it mixed up with some of the early data mine stuff was a bit different. So that's what I was doing this morning. I haven't been doing anything else. I have wanted to do the Deaths of Nomi thing as well. But I either want to do it properly... or not at all. Because as a piece of content, I think it's quite a good idea, the Deaths of Nomi content for the next patch. But I don't think I'm going to be all that bothered about doing it myself. I think it's for someone who wants something else to do. I think it's going to be really good. But I'm not that bothered. I just want the raiding. And but if I'm going to test it out on PTR, at least I want to test it properly. So we'll have to see if there's a day when I get time where I can just spend the whole day on it. And that may well be Thursday, thinking about it now. I've got to go and do some jobs. I've got to go out tomorrow morning. I'm trying to think. I need to go out quite early and get back because I've got some new headphones being delivered. Because the headphones I've got here, the cable is a nightmare. It keeps twisting around and then sort of stays there. So it's like getting shorter and shorter. And I can't deal with it. So I've sent off for another headset. I was just going to get some normal headphones, actually, because I don't use the mic on them anymore, because I now use this mic. Cradle of Anguish. Bugger, I've got to try and remember which one is which now. Is that the one with the on-use blast? The cooldown gets reduced if the thing dies while it's on. I can't remember the names of the trinkets now. With health. Hang on. You've got the Cinders one, which is just the one where you get extra crit chance on the fire damage if there's other people that have it in 10 yards. Spectre of the Betrayer is an easy one to remember because kill Jaden, of course, the Betrayer. There's the Umbral Moonglaves, which, that sounds like be quite good for Mythic Plus or for Trash. I'm not going to be switching trinkets out for Trash, though. So that's 3. Oh, there's the Engine of Eradication, which doesn't look good to me. It just looks too RNG. It's probably going to be one of those a bit like Elemental Foci, where people, you know, maybe it'll be really good if you get really lucky, and therefore you'll end up seeing a load of top ranks with it, and people will think, oh, it's a great trinket, I'll use it, whereas they don't actually realise it's not a great trinket. It's just, if you get lucky, it's great, and if you don't, it's not. What's the other one I'm missing? Oh, that one. Oh, it's the one I'm thinking of. Oh, yes. Oh, okay, that one. It looks okay. It certainly looks good for soloing. Whether it is any good... I mean, the thing is, I haven't even looked at the numbers yet. Well, no, that's a lie, I have. Sol Sakura has actually been putting on the Discord some sims with these trinkets. But the problem is, first of all, they're still trying to, I think, model the best way to use them, the best way to sim them. But also, that Blizzard, we know they're going to change them. They always change trinkets. So I don't even want to look at the numbers. I don't even want to think. Like, someone put a response to the video, like someone was asking about the Cinders thing, and someone else said that there's a Fury Warrior that had been testing it, and it actually does really good damage, even if you're the only one that's got it. Who knows how much damage it does if you're the only one that's got it, because Blizzard could easily change the numbers. Hiya. So I'm not concerning myself with the numbers at all. In fact, at the moment, I'm actually doing some of the groundwork for the Retribution Paladin guide for when 7.2.5 comes out. And I always worry about doing these because I will say something and then literally a day later, Blizzard will change it. And if it was a website guide, I can just change it and update it. But with it being a video, I'm stuck with it. So when I bring out the Essentials guide for Rets, updated for 7.2.5, when it's brought out, that's it. I'm stuck. I'm committed. So the only way I can think to get around this now is to make sure that I don't commit myself to anything that Blizzard have a good chance of changing. So I'm not going to talk about which. I will talk about the trinkets from a theoretical point of view, but not from a this is better than this, because they could easily change it. The same goes for talents. I'm not going to say which talent. I'll just sort of say in theory which one they'll be best for, and that's the only way to get it. Well, no, the 80% is not an issue because it can stack out of combat. So you can start off with your max stacks. It's the only reason, and the thing is, if you drop below 50%, okay, you lose them. But healers are not just going to bring up your health by a little bit, are they? They're going to heal you properly. I mean, they might not heal you to full. You're not a tank, but they're going to heal you above 80%. I mean, you think about, you know, how your health actually is in raids. When it does go low, healers usually go, oh my god, someone low health, and they heal you up, either because they're really nice or because they want to rank. It doesn't really matter. So you will get your 80% back, so I haven't got an issue with that. The only issue is on, like, there'll be some fights where there is a chance of going lowish on health. So let's say you have like Mythic Gul'dan, for example, with Bonds of Fel. Now, well, not Mythic Gul'dan, that's a bad example because you usually get the bubble on that. Let's say Heroic. So you could go through an entire Heroic Gul'dan. I'm not saying without ever dropping below 50%, but without getting the bonds in the first couple of phases, or the second phase, I suppose, really. At which point you keep your full stacks throughout that entire phase. But let's say you get this random thing where you get the bonds, you break yourself out, and maybe you do dip below 50 because not enough people went in with you, then you've lost it. So it's this fact that some pulls on the same boss, you will get to keep it for an entire phase, and some pulls you won't. And it's that unknown aspect that makes it a bit of a gamble. And that's assuming it's a decent trinket. Obviously, if it's a really good trinket, then you'll probably not mind losing it a couple of times a fight. But if it's just one of those where it's sort of your best, but only if you can keep the stacks for the whole fight, then it's a bit dodgier. So let's have a look. You could put a banner on the screen that's clickable that says something like, this has now changed. Click here for updated info. Oh, you mean on my videos? No, that's very untidy. I did do that originally, but the problem is it's very... I can imagine watching a guide and constantly having these things saying that, and it would just look messy to me. They're also, I think, YouTube trying to get rid of those as well. I don't know whether they already have, because I certainly haven't put them on for a long time. They've certainly changed the way you can do annotations now. But at the very least, I would just rather stick with what is known and then do like separate mini ones on when we sort of know where the numbers are, because they, you know, things in terms of what's best to use in terms of anything is always going to change. Judgment of Light, yeah, I've not really been using that. I may use that actually a bit more in Tomb of Sargeras. I mean, when we first got hold of it as Ret, the issue was that different paladins wouldn't stack. So the Holy Paladin who used it kept telling me off. So I had to stop using it, which is fine because I'll just take Divine Intervention. It's just that I don't very often proc Divine Intervention in raids. So, but I don't always need Cavalier either. So it's like that row's almost wasted a lot of the time. It is nice to have Divine Intervention just in case of accidents. Separate mini ones makes sense, yeah. Just for the specialised stuff, I think. So the Essential Guide it'll cover all what you need to know. It's just that it won't tell you, should I use Blade of Wrath or Virtue's Blade? Because that's different anyway. That'll be the usual simmet. But even orders of trinkets, like which, because the thing is, you can't even say anyway. Because even if you come up with even if you say the numbers are not going to change, it's very difficult to say, because with Titan Forging, we can't say this trinket is better than that. Because what if one trinket that's not so good is, you know, you Titan Forge it and you get it 15 item levels higher? Well, it might now be. So, you know, BIS lists and things like that, and this piece of gear is better than that, is really, really dodgy to work out. You ultimately can't do it without actually running some sort of sim. So I'll just have to point people. I suppose at least now I can point them to raid bots instead of Simcraft. Be a bit easier. Uh, 2,000 strength they put extra in the big trait made a difference now, maybe. Because obviously that's going to change a bit. But people sort of see that as a nerf, but it's not going to be a nerf because we're going to get so much better gear. Like it for quick info. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where if people get turned off by the interface, because all it is an interface. It's not a new program itself. It uses Simcraft, and but it's an interface, and it's a lot more user friendly, which makes it more appealing. So if you say to people, oh, you need to sim it, and they look at Simcraft, I think, oh my god. Whereas they look at raid bots and they may well go, oh, this is all right. And even if you get slightly the wrong results, or because you've still got to understand how data analysis works, and a lot of people don't, so you might draw an incorrect conclusion, but you know, it'll not be too far off, hopefully. Yeah, the 4% strength increase is going to be more eventually, because that's the thing, we're going to get better gear out of it. And we haven't, it's not even like this tier is the last one. We've then got Argus. Obviously they can redo some of the traits for then, I don't know. Well, in terms of how much it runs, it would depend on your computer and also how much load there is on their servers at the time. Like, my computer's really quick at processing stuff. So for me, it's slower on their stuff than it is on mine. And I did it at off-peak times. So at peak times, it may run a bit slower as well. So that's why I'm going to mostly still use Simulation Craft, because I can run sims quite quickly on my computer. But if your computer's not so quick at processing, or you're running Simcraft where you've got loads of other things going as well, then, mind you, if you've got loads of other things, well, yeah, maybe it is better to do that then. But that's a relative thing between how fast your computer is and what the load is on their servers at that time. So, yeah. I can just imagine, though, during raid times, like at the moment, I don't know how popular it is now. You can sort of tell on the Patreon page they've got over 1,000 patrons, so you know it's looking good. I don't know. Obviously, they don't let you know the breakdown of how many of each thing, so you can't work out how much it's contributing to it. But the fact that they've got over 1,000 patrons means that, you know, it's taking off. But it's going to be one of those things where it'll become much more popular, just like Warcraft logs did. So there's going to come a point where I can imagine at raid times, just like with Warcraft logs now, there are so many people trying to access those servers that they just melt down. So I can foresee issues like that. Do I think the Tomb of Sargeras trinkets coming out are an effort to make people away from Simcraft, or is Blizz seemingly trying to bring Blessing and Might back in another form? I don't think it's either. I think this is why I keep saying, I will still stick to this. I think they should combine legendaries and trinkets because they're doing the same thing for each. With trinkets, they just keep having, they need mad ideas. It's like, they've had this philosophy for some years now that trinkets should do cunning things, like really special things to get excited about. Much like the legendaries now. So I don't know why they don't just get rid of trinkets, keep the trinkets, or merge the concepts. So you just have those 2 trinket slots, which are just have legendaries and trinkets merge into the same thing, because their attitude when designing them is the same. And because of that, because you've got to come up with so many trinkets and so many legendaries, they just have to come up with mad ideas so that it's new, so it's different. And I think that's all it is. I don't think it's to get away from people using Simcraft, because that won't work anyway. People will still use Simcraft or Sims. They will just get the wrong results from them. Because there's subtleties with trinkets that you need to be aware of when you determine it. You can't just look at a number and go, oh, this is better than this. It doesn't work like that. Because you cannot accurately model any of the fights in any raid tier with Simcraft. You just have to use bits, like I was talking about Mythic Gul'dan. Like the first phase, you might say is like a Beast Lord type fight, because there are regular ads with the eyes. But then the second phase, you don't have that, but you have a bit of cleave there. So you could talk about it as being light movement, but there's occasionally another ad there. Not easy to use a mode on Simcraft for that. And then the phase with Illidan, it's a bit of a mixture, again, depending on who you are. So what you mean is the big trait already gave you 2,000 strength. Oh, you mean the Concordance, the really big one. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant our ret one. So when they change the other trait from 2,000 strength to 4 strength, it's a big increase. It's a bigger increase, yeah. But even just the gear we were getting, it was going to be a largish increase anyway. Even if it's just a boring thing to have. But no, I don't think... I just think the trinket designs are just... They come up with mad ideas. And the problem with that is it becomes very difficult to tune, because they will have in their mind when they're designing it, oh, this will be the intended use. And then some bright spark will come up with a way to break it that they won't have taken account of. And then it depends on what class it is that breaks it. Because as we all know, if it's a warrior that breaks it, they'll just leave it, like, you know, Draft of Souls. And if it's a ret that breaks it, they will instantly nerf it. So yeah. But, so that's why it makes it impossible. I mean, I remember when I first started doing, like, guides in advance of a patch coming out, where I first got bitten on the arse, because it was just before the Hellfire Citadel patch. That was when I first really started doing it. And I did a video on, oh, you want this trinket because it's absolutely amazing. You want this other trinket as well because that's absolutely amazing. And I brought that video, and I knew as well, because obviously I've played the game for long enough to know that on patch, or close to patch day, they might make some last minute changes. So I waited as long as I could and still get it out in time for the patch. And then brought it out, and there were no changes, brought it out. And then they changed it like a day or two later after I brought the video out. And it was like, thanks very much. So I don't know what that was about. So now I just have to... I think just what I did today is probably where I'm going to have to be with it. And instead of trying to say, well, this trinket is really good for this and this is... I mean, some of them will inevitably, because of the way they're fundamentally designed, not be great for something. Like, you can't imagine that the Umbral Moonglaves will be the sort of thing you're going to use on a pure single target boss fight. Simcrafting, do I run a separate report for each boss using the different fight types? It depends on... Like, you can go into it too much. What I try and do is I sim it for what I think is going to be the key part of whatever we're progressing on at the moment. So, I mean, if you take Mythic Gul'dan, when I was simming myself for that, there's certain parts of that fight where it's like movement. You're constantly moving out. So it's like light movement rather than heavy movement, I would argue. But it's a movement fight. But then you say to yourself, the topic at the moment is whatever. Simming at the moment, Simcraft. So then you say to yourself, we had a situation where we almost killed Mythic Gul'dan, and then we didn't quite, so we're going to have to do it the next week, but without our main Fury Warrior. And he was completely destroying the eyes and completely destroying the parasites. So the attitude we had there is we're going to struggle on those. So at that point, I was thinking much more in terms of simming myself for a Beast Lord type fight and making sure that I use... Because I don't throw... If I have a high item level piece of gear, I don't throw it away. Even if it's got like mastery on it, because at the moment I won't really be wearing it if I've got a choice. But anything can change at any moment and mastery suddenly looks good. So I was simming myself for Beast Lord, sorry, type fights at that point, because that was, you know, I had to maintain high single target DPS whilst also being able to blow up those sporadic ads. So, but that's the way I treat it, because that's what you have to do. You have to identify what is going to be your toughest challenge in the next few weeks. So you can't do it on a week by week basis because you can't keep changing your priorities for gear. But you can say to yourself in the next few weeks, you can even look ahead. Like let's say when you get a good idea of Tumor Sargeras, it's been out for a few weeks. You can then look at yourself, what is the main roadblock going to be for us, and start to think about what your class can do to be good on that fight, and you could base your gearing choices around that. But yeah, there's no point in worrying about gearing choices for bosses that you know you're going to kill within a few pulls or something. Do it for the ones that are going to be the big roadblocks. That's the ones you want to min-max on, not the ones that you're going to roll over quickly. But a lot of people, as I say, they'll just look at the... Because when you look at a big list of sims that's put on a forum or something, it's just patchwork, and people look at that and it's like... So until I did the teaching vid on SimC, I didn't try to figure it out since you've been using it regularly and can see improvements all the time. Well, you can. You have to... It's like any data. You have to turn it into information. You have to understand what's going on. You have to understand some of the subtleties of it. So just doing a sim with the standard settings, which is patchwork, and I think it's like a 5-minute fight or something, because the fight duration has an effect as well. You have to consider if the fight duration is appropriate. And there's various settings you can put in Simcraft, and that's what I say. I had quite a few comments saying that my review of that raid bots was incorrect because this, and this, and I'm thinking no, because you're forgetting that. So when I said you don't get as much information from this as that, and they said, oh, but you can click on a link and it's all there. It's like, no, it's not, because you can't change the options that you can in Simcraft. Like on Simcraft, I can change the number of bosses that there are for a council to fight. You can't do that on raid bots. Hello. The add-on Simpamut. So you tried the Raidbot website. The Raidbot have manually put in all the gear and want to compare with Simpamut. I don't have to do that. I don't know about Simpamut. I've not come across that. Well, no. Yeah, that's the thing with Simcraft. You see, again, like I can give it quite a lot to do, and it can just run and it won't stop. Which is an issue with that. But what I think the raid bots is good for is, as I say, it's first of all good for people who just balk at the sight of Simcraft. But also, if you just want to compare two things really quickly. And as I say, Relics is an obvious thing for it to do. Relics looks like the really good one. I suppose Trinkets, potentially. Because there's enough options in the raid bots for you to be able to compare trinkets from fight to fight as well. The only downside is, even with trinkets, you have to be especially careful that you don't just have a look at those numbers, and because they can be very, very dodgy. Because some trinkets are very RNG, and what you're getting if you run, say, 10,000 iterations or whatever, you're just getting what the average is. Well, on any given week, you're only pulling it one at a time, and you might get really low procs or really good procs or whatever. Raid bots is absolutely more friendly. I mean, as I say, at the start of Legion, I was fully expecting to be able to do videos on how to use the Ask Mr. Robot sims, because when that was in development, I was invited to test it on the strength of a video I'd done, and I remember, because what they did with us beta testers is they did a live thing like this, but for us, where they were explaining certain things and we could ask questions. And it all sounded absolutely brilliant. You know, there were going to be so many customization options. It sounded awesome, loads better than Raidbots has ended up being. However, it's not accurate, and if it's not accurate, then it's no use. Have I done or willing to do an in-depth teaching vid on how to read Warcraft logs? I have done analysing actual people's logs. I have got another one of those to do as well. Someone sent me one a good, I think it might even been 2.5 weeks ago now, and I've had time to do it. So I need to find time to do that, hopefully tomorrow. And what I generally hope from those is some people pick things up. But in terms of an actual guide for doing it, I haven't. I am willing. The only thing is, I'd have to think about it in terms of, you don't want to do a big one, I think, because even then, if I do a big one, there's bound to be things that I don't do in it, and people go, oh, you haven't done that. Maybe it would be better if I did a series of shorter ones. Maybe I do that as the series after me. Yeah, maybe I could do that after I finish the Preparing for Tomb of Sargeras series. Maybe that would be when Tomb of Sargeras has actually come out. Maybe I do a series on reading Warcraft logs. So yeah, I could potentially do a guide on that where I bring out looking at different things each week. Possibly. I'd have to think about that one. But I have already said, yeah, I always want at any one time a series of videos out on the go, like maybe 5 or 6 weeks worth, and then switch to another series. So I haven't decided what the next series is going to be, because obviously the Preparing for Tomb of Sargeras series is going to end abruptly as soon as Tomb of Sargeras comes out. At which point I need to think of another one, and I've got a couple of ideas, but that could be potentially one. I could potentially do guides on reading Warcraft logs. I'll have to have a bash at what categories I would do that on, because there are lots of things to look at for that. I mean, there's various things in there that people don't spend enough time looking at, like replays. The replay is a really good feature of that was never in the old world of logs that came before it, that just allows you to see so much stuff. What it's brilliant for, actually, is if you get into a particular point of the fight and an ad didn't die in time, and it's like, were you DPS in that ad? And they go, yeah, I was. I just don't do much damage to it. You can't really tell easily. You can sort of. You can't really tell easily from the damage they've done to it, especially for classes you might not know all that well. On a replay you can, because you can see what they're targeting at certain points of the fight. So it's like, if you're not even targeting it, I'm sort of going to go out on a limb and suggest you didn't switch to it. What do you mean? You wish you could tell what's actually happening in replays? Can you not? But anyway, well, that would be one of the ones I'd do it on anyway. So yeah, maybe... so what do we think in terms of Tomb of Sargeras? What have we... Let's have a think. See, someone was saying today, oh, do we think it's going to be out on? I said, well, I've got to get my dates right. Someone mentioned that Season 3 is ending on the 13th of June. Does that sound right? Yeah, 13th of June. And, you know, Blizzard did say Tomb of Sargeras is mid to late June. So what that could mean is... I mean, people have done this before. People have sort of tried to suggest that, oh, Arena Scene is ending, so therefore the next one will start. And it's bitten them on the arse. It doesn't always work that way. However, given that it's roughly the same amount of time, it might well be that, let's say, Tomb of Sargeras in North America maybe comes out the week after that. Maybe they don't bring it at the same time. Maybe it's a week later. So maybe the 20th of June as a rough... So that would be like 3 weeks today. So maybe that's when I could start doing the Warcraft logs ones. So what would that leave me in terms of the preparing for... So... I don't know. The thing is, I don't see why they would delay the Tomb of Sargeras actually out, because they would get into a lot of trouble, I think. It's people, or I know we weren't going, like when they brought 7.2 out, we were not going to get the raid then, we weren't ready for it. But there was a lot of criticism levelled at Blizzard for the fact that with 7.2, when you break it down, what did we actually get from it? It was little bits of content. So, okay, we had the new zone, but it's just World Quest. So it's no different to Tanan Jungle. We have to be very clear about that. Tanan, you know, all the Broken Shore is at the moment is Tanan Jungle. Then we got a new dungeon. Actually, that was good at least. So we did get something there. But then in terms of other stuff, we got the challenge. But I don't know how many people have actually done the challenge proportionally. And then a lot of the other stuff was just changes to the way the game is. Improvements, sure, but just changes. So for a major content patch, we got new world quests and we got a new dungeon. So if they then try and bring out 7.2.5 and the raid isn't with it, even if it's going to come out a week later, I think there would be blood. So I do think that the raid itself, obviously just on normal and heroic to begin with, and then Mythic the week after, will come out when the patch goes live. I do think they'll be tied together. They don't have to be, but I think they will. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't either. So, yeah, it might be... I mean, it is pure guesswork. Anything could happen. But the 20th sounds to me like a reasonable working assumption at the moment. I'll sort of work to that-ish. And if I'm wrong by... I can only be wrong by 1 week either way anyway. Massive... Yes, there are some massive class changes. Well, would it? Because the best place to practice these is in the new raid. I mean, I can see what you're saying, because there is an advantage in, you know, I suppose, in no, 20th doesn't seem too far out. Because they've said mid to late June. So 13th, possible. 20th, and then 27th. Well, you know, all of those fit the mid to late June. Yeah, there are some massive class changes coming for some classes. But you could argue the best place to... Like, the serious players will have practiced in PTR. And God help them if they haven't. And other players... like, very casual players may not even do Tumasar Garrison that first week anyway. They'll still be doing Nighthold. And the ones sort of in the middle, it's probably a good place to try it out. Doing a few mythic... normal Tumasar Garrus. But they could. I mean, you know, there might be some... reason. There might be some reasoning there. You know, you bring it out, give everyone a week to practice with their class, and then bring the raid out. It's possible. Easy to practice on farm raids when you don't have to worry about mechanics. Depends what you're farming. I think we'll still be worrying about some... There's some mechanics you have to worry about all times, like Star Augur with Grand Conjunction and stuff. So you've mained a monk, both Mistweaver and Windwalker, and you're worried that the Mistweaver changes are not enough just from the testing I've done. I don't know. I mean, we have a Mistweaver in our guild who's really good. So, but I think it might well be... the main issue with Mistweaver seems to be that they don't bring... I think it's the cooldowns, especially now that cooldowns are very much within the sphere of healers. I mean, I know DPS warriors get like, they get a defensive cooldown as well, a raid-wide cooldown. But it's mostly for healers. But the one we've got is really good anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, utility is... I mean, that's the sort of thing they're going to put... They don't need to change anything about the class anyway. You just put one in, don't you? And if they haven't done that, then they're obviously... not thinking in those terms. I mean, I think it's a bit silly, really, because I can well appreciate that Mistweavers are harshly dealt with, especially, as I say, we've got a situation. What we've got now, is it 6 healers types we've got? No, hold on. I suppose it depends if you class Priest, Holy and Discipline separately. Got 5 types of 5 classes of healer, haven't we? And most fights use 4, if you're talking about Mythic at any rate. most fights used for. So, but I think in our guild, it's not really going to be the Mistweaver that's sat just because he's such a good player. Oh, sorry, I missed a question there. How does PTR work? Can anyone do it? Yes, you can. There are certain periods of time where you can no longer copy a character. Like, what happens is you go on, I can't really show you here, but you go on, you have to create a character on one of the realms that you're going to use. You can't just copy a character without doing that first. You just create like a level 1 character. Then there's an option in the bottom, slightly to the left of your, on your character screen, just at the bottom, to copy account data. You have to go to the right realm, because by default it's on North America, I think. So in my case, I'd click to Europe, and then it should give me a list of all my characters, and I can copy across. There comes a point in late PTR when they disable that ability, so you won't be able to copy a character across. So you'd have to create one. I think you can create a ready-made level cap one, I think. I'm not sure. I think that varies. But that's how, yeah, anyone can do PTR. You just need to download it. You go into your, go into your account settings or something and get it. Kill Jane's Burning Wish. Do you know what I saw today, actually, for the in the Curious Coins vendor? There's something that works. It's actually a better version of Kill Jaden's Burning Wish. And not a trinket either. The thing that does about 2.5 million damage to your target and everything around it. Can't target players, but everything around it. Yeah, I mean, my major gripe with anything like that, where is the Curious Coins vendor? It's just near the statue of an Antonidas, which is behind the blacksmiths. He's hiding by a tree. And basically every day or every few days, I don't know what it is, but, you know, it cycles round special items for the 50 coins. So that sort of changes. Sometimes they're really good. Sometimes they're like novelty. Sometimes they're just rubbish. In rotating, is there a rule on how many traits you need to have for upcoming Tomb of Sargeras? Yes, you need them all. Obviously, concordance at like 52 traits, should we say? This week we're expecting, in the next reset, which is tomorrow for us in Europe, we are expecting people to be at 49. So I'm already at 52. I've been there. So I'd actually stopped going any further into that and just starting getting more of my prot weapon. Although I've decided to go back and start getting some more on that one now. Because I hardly ever use my prot. I did actually use prot this week just for doing time walking dungeons, as if anyone cares about that. So yeah, that is the rule. That is going to be the rule for any Mythic guild. It's got to be. You've got to have 52 traits when Tomb of Sargeras opens, because Blizzard are expecting people to have 52 traits when it opens. They're designing it around the fact people have concordance. Obviously, as we're now at the point, if you've been keeping up with it as well, artifact knowledge, where you can't, like, I got my last one a couple of days ago, and I can't like really put any more in. So we're on to the last 2 now or something. So it's not going to be long at all before we've got max on artifact knowledge with 40, and that's the point at which, of course, it's going to get much tougher to get the new traits. So if any raid member doesn't have 52 trait, they won't be able to join. That's correct, unless we were desperate, but we are hoping not to be desperate. We had a similar rule. There was a period of time as well for Nighthold when we had minimum requirements. Oh dear, I've clicked it off. And we did have people who didn't make it, and they were left out on progress until they'd got themselves up. For heroic, I don't even, yeah. I mean, you might as well, I guess, because there's no reason for people not to have it. Like, I do very little in terms of AP grind because I don't want to burn myself out. I have plenty of other things to do as well. And I got it over a week ago. So there is no reason why even heroic raiders shouldn't have it by the time Tomb of Sargeras comes out, which is still another 2 weeks at least away. At absolute least. And I know in heroic it's a different thing, because you could argue there's no reason to leave anyone out because of the flex nature of it. But, you know, I suppose it depends how strictly you want to enforce that one. But in a mythic raiding guild, they're going to, because there's it's absolute nonsense. Because we've even got some people re-rolling, you know, like now, like re-rolling characters now, and got Alth that got no gear. They will have 52 by the time Tomb of Sargeras comes out. Even though in theory we might be a little bit more lenient with them, but we don't. I don't think we need to be, because they will have that. Which reminds me, we're going to get gear. We need to gear one of them up, a hunter, who's changed from rogue to hunter. It's really annoying because we need rogues and hunters at the moment. But we'll be taking him tomorrow, when I should be able to stream, as I say, because I've got the audio stuff sorted out now. It is a bit funny, actually. It mucks about with a few things. Like I've got voice meter banana and a virtual audio cable. It's sort of working. Or at least I can cut out the Discord stuff. The issue is that I can't use my editing program when it's active. I have to then disable it, which also then means when I'm doing that I can't hear anything else. I can only hear stuff on my video editor and nothing. I can't hear anything in game or anyone on Discord or anything. So I either edit or I listen, and not both at the same time. But that doesn't matter. I don't really need to listen to other people when I'm doing my editing. Oops, just seeing if I missed anything else out as well before I start chattering about something random. Oh, what was that about? Oh, make a deal. I don't make deals with anyone who might be a gnome. Try add on Simpamot. I don't even know what Simpamot is. Hold on. Let me write it down. I've written it down. I'll have a look at it. If I like it, make a video of it. Yeah, I could do. But it would have to be accurate. Do I not find that not having Arcane Torrent is a big disadvantage? No. The thing I missed about it when I changed back from Horde to Alliance was in Mythic Plus for the Interrupt. It is a good thing to have for the Holy Power at the start of a fight, but I don't miss it. You know, I'm fine with that. You can still build it up. You can build it up quickly enough. I don't really. I mean, okay, I haven't run any like maths on it or anything, but I can't imagine it's a big loss, especially in Tomb of Sargeras, because with the set bonuses, stuff's going to give us more holy power anyway. You know, Arcane Torrent you might not even use at the start. I don't know. Because it's just a natural thing for me to run in, use like Blade of Justice, Crusader Strike, Judge, or something like that. Or Blade of Justice, Judge, Crusader Strike, and then start spending. And then you've got Wake of Ashes, 5 instantly. I don't really think you need it at the start. It's so no, I don't miss it. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying it's not the best racial. It may, but I think it can be overstated how good it actually is. But I don't miss having boring buildings and ugly raid mates as Horde. Certainly. Much prefer Alliance, really. Even though, I mean, it's just... It is extremely difficult. I mean, a lot of the issues we've had with recruiting have been because we're Alliance. I really wish Blizzard... And they never do. They never really put, or they don't seem to put at any rate, they certainly don't discuss it publicly, any conscious effort into addressing the problems of, like, raiders. And I know we're a relatively small proportion of the player base, but still. It's the premier content in the game. And I wish they would sometimes show awareness of, oh, we've got this huge imbalance between Alliance and Horde. Not on a server-by-server basis, but on a, you know... thingy basis. I mean, apart from anything else, surely they would make more money from server transfers if people were willing to switch faction as well. Because it's not just the cost that puts people off. You know, when I talk to players who, like Horde players, it's not sometimes it's the cost that puts people off changing to Alliance, but a lot of the time it's just that they think that Horde have better racials, and they did do. I'm not convinced they do. I mean, from some classes, I suppose inevitably they do. But yeah, I just wish they would sort something out about that. But yeah, this comes back down to the PvP thing again about not having PvE and PvP separate. Again, this is something you can't change now with WoW, but the notion that for PvE purposes, there's no such thing as faction would help this out enormously. You know, faction has no, is only divisive for PvE. It should only exist for PvP. But again, just the way the game is, you can't change that now, so there's no point in moaning. Blood Elf is not the master race. It just looks good compared to the rest of its ugly brethren, that's all. Although there is such a thing as being too pretty. And the female Blood Elves have weird elbows as well. I can't get on with them. I think you'll find humans in the master race, really. Female Draenei are quite good as well. No. I mean, I don't like the art style of World of Warcraft. I will say that. I don't actually like the design. And the only reason we have the design we have now is because they aped Warcraft 3, which obviously had to have cartoony type things because of the way that game was. I would much prefer a more sort of realistic art design. But given that we're stuck with it, all of them look weird. I suppose you just get used to it, don't you? The other races are extremely ugly. Do I think Blizzard are going to change Crusade in the last second? I don't really see any reason why they would. Because they have this issue that you can't... I mean, if you look at that ring now, Soul of the High Lord, with Divine Purpose on it, that's basically their way of giving up on trying to balance Crusade. Because what's the point? Because if you had that ring, for example, you're not even allowed to choose Divine Purpose. You've got to choose Crusade. So it's their basic way of saying, okay, Crusade is the talent to take in that row. So there's no point in them trying to mess about with it. But because they tried to do this in Alpha and Beta, and the problem was they nerfed it. They got to a point where, okay, it was looking really, really good. It's the talent to take. And then they nerfed it a little bit, and it became worse than taking no talent at all in that row. So it's not, because you can think with some abilities, it's like you just keep moving and nerfing. You tune it like a tuning knob on an ability, and you just like getting the temperature on a shower right. You're just sort of trying to get between there and there. But it doesn't work for Crusade. You know, if you bring it down a little bit, it becomes worse than nothing. It's like you're better off with no talent at all. And then a little bit higher than that, and it becomes the obvious one to take. There's no middle ground for it. Just the way it works doesn't allow it. So, I mean, one of the things that makes it super powerful as well is the fact that we can have relics that buff it as well. I mean, I've got 3 Crusade relics. Wrath of the Ashbringer. So, you know, if you can use them, if you can get the most out of them, that makes them even more powerful. Would I like to see the old talent tree back in the game? No. No, I wouldn't. Because I agreed with Blizzard on that one. It was just largely cookie cutter. You know, they might as well have not had it. You might as well have just automatically got certain abilities as you leveled up and not had talents at all. So the current talent system is better. It's just that I just wish they would listen to people more, because it annoys me. Like, if it were the case when you're going through Alpha and Beta and you're reading the feedback forums for your class and you're reading what Blizzard say about it and all the rest of it, if it were the case that there's some stuff the community says, no, it should be like this, and it turns out they're right, but then there's other stuff where Blizzard say, no, it should be like this, and it turns out that they're right about it. If it was a 50-50 like that, you would go, okay, well, fair enough. But it's not. Everything, when the community actually says, no, this is really bad, you've got to stop it now, and Blizzard don't, it's like, we're always right about it. And I'm not saying Blizzard are stupid, they're not. but they just seem to be a bit blinkered. And I think it's literally professional pride. I think they don't like to admit that they've got something wrong, which is just really silly. Like, can you imagine if I did that in a class, if a student pointed out something I got wrong? Admittedly, it doesn't happen very often. But if I did, you just own up to it, for goodness sake, otherwise you just end up looking stupid. I mean, the greater blessing of might was a classic case of something that was clearly ridiculous. And they defended it so strongly, and it's gone now. They got rid of it because it was stupid. But they keep using the excuse, oh, well, you know, it's all right, you testing it out. You're a really small sample. We need proper data. So they use that excuse to bring it out live when there's then thousands of people using it, tens of thousands. And then they go, all right, we've got loads of data now. Oh, yeah, that's not very good. It's like, because some things you can just think about it empirically. But yeah, but that's my only issue with the talent tree. It's when their philosophy doesn't match their abilities. How are my recruitment issues going? We have our most recent recruits have been very good, but we are still having issues. There's no let up in it really. Like we just about had the roster in a decent place. We could still benefit from another healer because we've got 4 healers. No, we haven't. We've got 5 now. No, that's true. We have got 5. But with summer coming up and holidays and stuff, maybe we should still have another. Because people are going away on holiday. But yeah, we had most things just about where we want them. And then a really good hunter got burnt out and left. So now we need to replace him. And we've got to replace him with someone good. Like I've been looking for the past few days. Ever since the weekend, I've been looking for hunters. And most of them, the good ones really aren't interested. Most of them are horde as well. Most of the good ones are horde. And I've talked to a few and they're not coming. And then the rogues as well. We had 2 rogues. And we're basically not going to have any in Tomb of Sargeras. Because one of them is the one who's wanting to change to hunter. And you could say, well, at least we're getting a hunter out of it. But we don't know if he's going to be any good as a hunter. We can't possibly say that at this point. And then the other rogue has work affecting his ability to raid. So that's no good either. Hiya, Pinky Tiger. Making a web app that sorts or grades dungeon raids by your stat ways to show where BIS items or... Yeah, but... I suppose people would like that. Well, no, I think people would, whether it's useful and whether it's be desirable is 2 different things. How useful it is can vary because the problem is with Titan forging, any sort of BIS list as such is redundant. However, I do think people would like it. So if you did that, I think people, and you put it on MMO Champion or something, I think people would use it because people would like it. But whether it's useful or not is another thing. Yeah, but I suppose the thing with Dungeon Journal is you've got to go through each dungeon, haven't you? And try and identify them. This idea, I suppose, would do it more quickly. But yeah, that's the situation we've got with recruitment. It's always... I mean, it's never, anyway, it's never truly stable. Because even when you've got a largely stable roster, there's always something you sort of want as well. And then, as I say, with summer coming up, summer is going to be a big chicken race. I mean, if you thought that quite a lot of guilds fell away during Nighthold, wait for Tomb of Sargeras. Because I don't know how difficult Tomb of Sargeras is going to be compared to Nighthold. I have been told off as well for keep saying 13 bosses when there's like 9 bosses in it. That's because I kept mixing it up because Hellfire Citadel, which is the equivalent tier for this expansion, had 13. So yeah, naughty. But yeah, there's going to be guilds where a few people are going to go on holiday, or it's going to be summer and people are just going to decide, do you know what, I don't really want to be sat in raiding. And I don't mean in our guild, I mean in guilds in general. Better not do it in our guild. In guilds in general. And we're already in a situation where a lot of guilds, even mythic guilds, have got skeleton rosters. And it only takes 1 or 2 people not turning up and you ain't got a raid. So it's going to be a chicken race. It's going to be, can we hold on long enough to be able to benefit from the getting recruits from the guilds that are collapsing. Because I think it's going to be at least as bad as Nighthold for guilds collapsing, if not worse. Because Summer can absolutely destroy guilds. Especially if you have a roadblock boss. Like in Hellfire Citadel, the first one was Gorefiend. Gorefiend killed... I mean, you can argue... People will say Gorefiend killed a lot of raids. I think it was the combination of Gorefiend being fairly tricky with the fact it was Summer. Because Gorefiend wasn't so difficult that it would actually kill a raid off. A guild off, sorry. But the fact that it was Summer as well. With Mythic, how difficult is it dealing with players that get benched? It can be tricky. The most successful guild I was ever part of, and you can't have a guild like this anymore realistically, but in TBC, where we got very high world ranks, we had a situation, it was 25-man raiding there, we had a roster of 30. Now that included 20 core members, so we were basically there all the time, and we were always in. And then you had another 10 players who were the ones who tended to be rotated in as in when what was best, and who was available as well. Now the thing is, those 10 players were fine with that. They were comfortable with that because they knew for the commitment that they were able to give to the game, they wouldn't have got into a guild anywhere near that world rank and got a core raid spot. So they were cool with it. These days, though, and especially in the position we're in now, we've got a really rubbish world rank at the moment. It is tricky because on the one hand, you want good players. Good players, by definition, especially these days, are the ones who put time in to learning to play the game well. They're not the sort of people that want to be benched. So no one wants to be benched. So it is tricky. It is very, there's no argument about that. It is tricky. And also you have an issue. Sometimes you get a situation where, you know, if someone gets benched and then they decide actually they should just leave the guild and go somewhere else. And maybe someone else goes with them because they're friends with theirs as well. So it is tricky. But we have to just take the best for that fight. The good side about it is that we don't rotate people, and there's no favoritism in our guild. Like in some guilds, like, you know, some people get taken not because they're the best, but because they're friends with the GM or something. We don't have that situation here. So we will take who we think are the best. So there is that competition. So it's like basically saying, we can say to new recruits, you know, if you are better, if you are the best person for the job, you're in. That's all there is to it. You're there. But you can't keep a small roster this summer. 23-ish, you won't manage it. I mean, well, okay, heroic you might. But for Mythic, you won't. Because there will be people going off on holiday. There'll be people having barbecues. You know, so some people might be the odd day or something like that. For some people, it might be going away for a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And how much notice they give you might vary as well. We're trying to, at the moment, get people to say what their plans are. But we've got a couple of people who are a bit, well, you know, who are basically saying, all right, what we ideally want is, yes, I'm going away on holiday. These are the dates I'm going on holiday. Or like me, who my response on this post was, going outside gives you cancer. In other words, I'm not going anywhere. But some people are going, well, I've got no plans to go anywhere. That's not a definitive, I'm not going anywhere, though. So, people get drunk and forget to raid. I hope that's not going to happen. It has happened. But yeah, that's a real nightmare. There shouldn't be drama with benching people, though. But no one likes to be benched. Am I into professional wrestling? Well, I'm actually not. But I could ask the question there. When you say professional wrestling, do you mean the acting type wrestling like WWEF and stuff like that? Or do you mean actual wrestling? But I'm not into either. So the answer would be no either way. Yeah, if most of your guilds don't like to go out anyway, then that is a bonus. Because here's the thing, like guilds, it's a very movable feast, like where you finish in terms of world ranks at the end of a tier, because a tiny little thing can mean hundreds of world ranks. Just a tiny little thing. Like, for example, a tank leaving the game and you taking time to replace them, or something silly like that. When it's a summer raid like this, and there have only been so many difficult summer raids. I mean, You know, there was Hellfire Citadel last year. I think the one previous to that, I think might have been Throne of Thunder, and even that wasn't like fully across summer as far as I remember. I'm not exactly certain. But with ones like this, the guilds that are able to keep that stable roster will do probably a lot better than they did in Nighthold just with that one factor. And the people who don't, the people who struggle are the ones who have an existential threat to their guild. So mostly we've had the same set of core raiders since TBC, blimey. We racked up a few server firsts early on, and most of us are back for Legion. Excuse me. However, after 6 or so years, lives move on and keeping that core group is... Oh yeah, you can't. Over years you can't. When I say a core group, I mean over the course of a tier. You know, it doesn't... You don't need to keep them together for years. You know, over a tier of raiding, you want them to be stable. You know, if a load of people leave at the end of a tier, but you can replace them and get them in, that's still fine. Because you've got that period of farm in the last few weeks to get them to gel together anyway. So I don't worry about people leaving at the end of a tier. I worry about them leaving in the middle of a tier, especially if they're really good players. Because it's really tough to replace them. And as I say, it's going to be the case that, especially, I mean, there's just so many issues we have. As I say, being Alliance is just an extra headache. But even Horde guilds are finding it tough. And it's just going to be a case of, can we keep our roster together longer than other guilds? Because then when those other guilds collapse, then we've got a source of recruits. The danger is that when guilds collapse, sometimes you get like those friendship groups. I mean, we've had a couple of friendship groups join already, where they want to stay raiding in the same guild. So sometimes you end up losing out on what would be a really good recruit for you just because they want to play with this group and you haven't got room for all of them. Do I think that the gear from Nether Shards will be upgraded with a new patch hits? I don't think there are plans to. I was thinking about that myself, ironically. It's the sort of thing that would be easy to do. Whether they're planning on doing it for 7.2.5, I'm not sure. I can certainly see them doing it for 7.3. Obviously, the Mythic Plus stuff is going up because they're going to increase the level at which you can push it and get better gear from it as well. I think to 15 off the top of my head. But I'm not certain with the Nether Shards one, but I don't think... should that be that? Something with... The lighting's always... I mean, the lighting is fine. It's just this program, the chroma key is really weird with it. So yeah, I don't think so. But I can't say definitively. And I'm not going to go on PTR and farm a load of Nether Shards to find out either. I suppose if we could still copy character, I could wait until my live character has enough and then copy it across and find out. Except knowing my luck, it will Titan Forge and then I won't be able to test it. I'll end up with a really BIS something or other on PTR where I can't use it. Because that's always the big fear when you do any content on PTR, that you get something BIS that you really want in live and you're not getting it in live. Wonder if you should hold on to the shards, use them on patch day. I think if it were known that they were going to be at higher item level, it would already be more widely known because people would already have been talking about this on forums. So that's what's... Because it's not that I've tested it, I don't know either way, but the thing that's making me hesitant is the fact that if it were the case they were going to increase it, I think it would be being... People would already be now advising you to hold on to those Nether Shards, which they're not. No, the shard gear... I can't remember what it is. But whatever it is, I don't think it's going up for the next patch anyway. Or what they'll do with the old artifact power trinkets, you won't be able to use them. No, they're not. That would be stunningly annoying. Though I don't think they'll do that. They're not gonna reset your Nether Shards because there will be hell to pay. Yeah, I've had a few or a couple of 900 item level trinkets from it. How to deal with people who are good in the guild and start to think they can blackmail leadership with their conditions. Have you had that issue? No, it wouldn't work. Because you can't have a situation where someone's doing that. What sort of blackmail are you even thinking of anyway? Because if they're good in the guild, then they're getting in on progress anyway. So what else could they possibly want? I don't remember with Valor Points. No, I remember they did it, obviously, this expansion with, like you said, well, with reputation tokens, certainly. And also, do I think Rets want to have the Divine Storm relics with the new legendary? Not necessarily. The problem with the Divine Storm relic is it's only used when you're using that. Because you've got to think about it, even with that legendary chest, you're not going to use Divine Storm loads. It's just when you can use it, especially if there's ads on a fight, you're going to do a lot of damage. But, you know, I don't want to overstate how, you know, it's not like going to be super awesome. It's just going to be potentially BIS. It doesn't have to be massively powerful just to be BIS. But I don't necessarily think we need the... Because if you think about it, a Divine Storm relic is only increasing it by a really small percentage. So, you don't know. I don't think so. Not reset, but I forgot to use a couple of AP items when I unlocked the new traits. Yeah, when you unlocked the new traits, we couldn't use the old AP tokens, certainly. Yeah, the rep tokens were the other thing. Because I was actually hoarding the rep tokens. I think I probably even said that people should do that. And then Blizzard said, no, you're not doing that. Okay, thanks. So I'd already half filled my bank up with rep tokens. So that didn't help me. Not that I could have done anything else anyway, because I was already so exalted with them all. They didn't reset them between the pre-Legion invasion. No, they don't. No, they didn't. No, I still had some nether shards left over from that. Of course, if I'd have known they were going to be useful, I wouldn't have wasted so many of them during that pre-Legion invasion, which I did. But never mind. But no, Clara, if you want to tell me what you mean by blackmail, what sort of things they might blackmail leadership for, then I can be more specific. Because I can't think that a good player would need to, because they're going to get what they want anyway. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't farm them any more than nether shards. So in terms of how useful it is, because obviously most of the time it just turns into a chaos crystal. For the vast majority of the time, in fact. I think I've had one useful trinket out of it. I can't even remember what it was. I don't think it's even one that I'm using now. I think it was just useful at the time when I got it, and then I don't think it is anymore. Have to farm up some other spec transmogs soon. Will you? I've been mixing mine around. I was using my Stormwind transmog this weekend, and now I've gone back to my Martial PvP set. You know, because that's the set I wanted to use when I went back to Alliance. But then, of course, by then we had the Ashbringer, and I thought, well, I should get a transmog that fits the Ashbringer a bit better. But now I've decided I've had the Ashbringer for long enough now. I'm a bit bored with it. So I've gone for the Martial set and the Grand Marshal's two-handed mace for my transmog at the moment. Partly because that's the set I wanted. I've got someone contact me, a graphic designer, about sort of doing something for a banner for the YouTube channel. So I've taken them up on that offer. So I put them in that set because if they're going to model the character on any set, that's the set I would prefer them to do it on. Although it didn't necessarily, I wasn't actually all that bothered. Even a generic paladin type thing would be okay for me. Do we still get challenge from the challenge mode transmog if we transmog it to something else? I don't think we do. I'm not sure, but I don't think we do. I think it has to be the shattered model. But I'm not 100% on that. I'm reasonably sure. because I'm fairly sure that when I got that, I transmogged it to something else because I didn't like it and wasn't getting credit. Because I have done, because I think for one of them you need 10 wins in RBGs, and I'm sure I've had that since I've got the skin. But I think because I transmogged it to begin with, I wasn't getting credit. I think. So I'll have to do that at some point. But at the moment, I can't be bothered. At some point, I'll go and do rated battlegrounds again at some point, and then put it back to that skin. But I really don't like the Shattered Ashbringer one. The only reason I'm going to try and get some of the other skins is just because as soon as Legion's finished, they're gone. We can't go. So if I change my mind in later years, I'll be stuck. You were getting credit with your hidden appearance, even though it's transmogged. Were you? Okay, well maybe, I don't know, maybe I did something weird then. There'd be one way, test it, I suppose you just have to test it out. Or just play on the safe side and not do it, I don't know. Let's have a look if I missed any other comments. Well, if it works for one, it should work for the other, shouldn't it, really? You know, so if you can transmog the hidden one and get credit for having the hidden one, then in theory it should work for the other. I guess. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to what you need to do to get most of those skins because I'm not that bothered by them. My favourite Ashbringer appearance is the one you got for just completing all the traits ages ago. Have I tested out the other challenges for all the specs? No, I haven't, because at the moment it would just be a waste of nether shards. I do want the protection one, though. I like that a lot. But I am just waiting until I outgear it to the point where... I know, obviously, just outgearing it isn't going to make it a walkover because, you know, I think on the tank one you've got to avoid being blasted off things. But I'm pretty sure if I wait until I've got really great gear, that I will also be able to learn it much more quickly than I could now. And I don't even have, like, tanking legendaries. So I have no tanking skill. I have no real tanking legendaries. So I don't think it would be a good idea. I would just waste a lot of nether shards, which I don't like farming anyway. But I do want to get the prot one. Absolutely. I mean, I haven't got the hidden one actually yet. The like corrupted Ashbringer one. Again, I suppose at some point I should do it. That's a really awkward one though. I keep sort of secretly hoping Blizzard are going to make it less annoying to do. Because I got the protection one just by doing like withered army training. Scales with my eye level so I can't outgear them. No. When did they change that? That wasn't a thing when I did my challenge mode for Ret. Didn't scale with item level. The challenge didn't scale with item level when I did it on the Retribution. So, unless they've changed it, that shouldn't be a thing. And I'm sure it's not a thing as well, because Blizzard have said that gear should nerf it for some players. They said it's supposed to be really, really difficult, and then as you get better gear, it should get a bit easier. But they did then also say that some people, even in Argus gear, won't be able to beat it. I'm not sure that's true. But I am hoping higher. I am hoping that it will be... Obviously, I will still have to learn it, but I think if I watch videos on it a few times and get it in my head, hopefully I won't have to waste too many nether shards to do it. But I'm not planning on doing it anytime soon. I am planning on maybe towards the end of Tomb of Sargeras when I'm all fully loaded. And maybe, hopefully, when I've got some more legend. The problem is now, with 2 new Ret legendaries coming onto the market, as soon as 7.2.5 comes out, I'm going to have to switch back to Ret spec Because at the moment I'm in prospect to try and get some protection legendaries for that. Because I want some. I don't know which ones I need, but I know I want some to do it. They have different base HP for different specs. But yeah, okay, yeah. That makes sense. So scales with class not. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. I mean, it would go against what Blizzard was saying about them if it scaled with item level. I know. I mean, some people would have liked it if it did scale with item level. But I can understand why Blizzard wouldn't do that. Don't need prot legendaries for the challenge though. I'll bet if they're useful, I need them. Because I can't tank. So there we go then. Trinkets. What sort of trinkets do you want then for it? I don't know. But I just think we're going to get to the point where I've got the I've got Cephas. Oh, you mean kill Jaden's Burning Wish? Well, I've got that as well. But I'm not trying it out now because I will fail completely. And I don't need it now. I only need it before Legion finishes. So I'll just wait until I can kick the shit out of anything in one shot. And then just have to focus on the mechanics. If all I have to do is worry about the mechanics, then I should learn it a lot quicker. Whether I'd try it on any of my alts, I don't know. Maybe. Because again, even some of the ones, I mean my Hunter at least, should end up with much better gear at some point. I get very little time to spend on them though. Although I have a window of opportunity at the moment. Because on my... What we're doing at the moment is Wednesday we're clearing 10 out of 10 Mythic. Well, we cleared it last week. We'd better bloody clear it again this week and on the Wednesday. But instead of having 2 nights off, we're raiding on the Thursday as well. Which means we're doing guild heroic runs. Well, if we've got all mains, then we can carry the odd person. So I, last week, and I should be able to do it this week as well, just brought my Hunter in on the other account and just put it on follow on me to try and grab some gear. So that's my main way I gear up my Hunter. Because I don't always have time to actually play on my alt. So what I can do is just drag it along and pick up free gear. When is Blizz going to implement that you can get other specs legendary in main spec when you get them all in your main spec? If it's not all 7.2.5, it's definitely coming. So if it's not already in, I'm not sure whether it's already in or not. It is definitely 7.2.5 because I know they've said that's going to be a thing. The issue is that in my case, I still wouldn't do that. Because the two things, first of all, there is one ret one I still don't have, but it's one I don't want. And the other issue is I could just as likely get a holy one as a protection one, and I want protection ones at the moment. Although, as I say, when 7.2.5 comes out, there is at least one other ret one that I'll want, so I'll have to put it back to that and hope I get it. Only one I would probably do it on is the Rogue, and the challenge transmogs just aren't as fancy as the others. I don't actually know what a lot of them look like. I suppose I should. Yeah, maybe I should just check what they look like. If there's any I like the look of, level up one of those characters and try and get it some gear. I mean, by the time you're in Argus gear, surely, even without being able to play it brilliantly. Because if I imagine, because the only one I've got experience of is obviously the Ret one, which is also common to at least one Warlock spec, I think, and a few others. You know, if you imagine being in Argus gear, even basic Argus type gear, when the expansion's nearly over, surely it would be so simple to do. Because you'd have so much more health as well. Need the 2 new ones before the hospital drop on your main, yeah. Well, I actually want one of the new ones. I want the chest for Ret when it comes out. Because that, yeah... It's really annoying. I'm really annoyed with Blizzard though, because again, it's another one of these inconsistencies. They kept going on at the start of Legion when it came out in the first few months, saying, "Oh, the reason why there's this thing with legendaries, the reason why you're all moaning, is because it's the throughput legendaries that are the problem, not these utility ones. So they should all have been utility ones. That's what we wish we'd have done." And so you sort of get the impression that's what they're going to do next expansion. But then they keep bringing out new throughput ones. Like both of the new ones for Ret, and I bet it's the same for every other DPS class as well, is the throughput legendaries. I wish they would make their mind up. Stop saying one thing and doing another. It's annoying. I get enough of that following politics. But yeah, I should have a look at what they look like for different classes and specs, and see if any of them look actually nice enough to want to chase. No, the new chest looks very good for the Rets. It looks very good indeed. It will, obviously, it's a bit like the cloak in that it will affect the way you play. It may even be more difficult to use it well. I hope they won't drop a cache I'd change on us with 2.5. You've got... You've been saving your caches. What, your emissary caches? Why? No, that doesn't work. If you're saving your emissary caches in the hope of getting the new legendaries, doesn't work like that. They've said this. I'm sure they've said this before. I won't be able to pinpoint it, so I can't be 100% certain. But I'm pretty sure that doesn't. I think what's in the cache is determined by when you get it, not when you open it. I think. What is the optimal haste required for Whisper of the Natharazim? There isn't really one. You know, this because other stats are useful as well. You just constantly have to keep simming yourself and use whatever's best. Like, obviously, below a certain amount, it's not going to be great. I mean, you sort of, you know, if you're just thinking what is the ideal haste to have for Whisper of the Natharazim, you would sort of say about 30, 31-ish. But that doesn't mean to say you should chase haste to get that value, even with the cloak, because, like, at the moment, for me, I've got about 27%, but crit is slightly more valuable to me at the moment. Yeah, I didn't think that. I don't think it works. So, because Blizzard, there's been lots of cases where, in theory, saving things for an upcoming patch would give you an advantage, and Blizzard have been quite clear, we're going to stop it giving you an advantage. They don't want you saving things. They want you to use them. So it'll not work. It's 10 for 10, so there's no real loss if I can only get off-spec items. Yeah, but you're missing out on artifact power. Oh yeah? No? Oh no, you get that on you don't get that from the cache itself, do you? You might be missing out on a Titan Forge piece of gear. 925 with a socket, strength crit trinket or something. No, you didn't think about that. Or even Bis Relic, because the Wrath of the Ashbringer Holy Relics can drop from World Quest, which means you can also get those from the emissary caches. So I wouldn't save them. We said stop nerfing part. I don't think we've been nerfed as such. But they do just have a funny, without me trying to go too much into victim mode, have this funny attitude that if we ever become strong in a particular area, they instantly nerf. Whereas with, I'm not saying all of the classes, but some other classes, they don't. I mean, the case in point was at the start of Nighthold. Draft of Souls was clearly going to be really powerful for warriors, and Blizzard didn't touch it. Convergence of Fates was going to be really powerful for Rets, and they nerfed the hell out of it immediately. And they went too far with it as well. They went, I mean, initially they went way too far. Then they reined it back a little bit, but still, it was still too far overall. See you later. I mean, we'll be coming sort of towards the end, I think, anyway, soonish. Do I reckon with Soul of the High Lord Divine Purpose would help Virtue's Blade when we have downtime in rotation? Yeah. In theory, certainly, it would increase the value of Virtue's Blade. Doesn't necessarily mean that Virtue's Blade over Blade of Wrath would be automatically the way to go. but it would certainly increase the value of it, because you don't want too many things that proc. And where you, I mean, the Divine Purpose proc lasts about 12 seconds anyway. You don't have to use it immediately. But it is possible that the Virtue's Blade would increase in value a little bit, but not necessarily to the point where you would use it over Blade of Wrath. What do I think of Virtue's Blade in general to taking into? It might be, again, one of those things where you have to sim yourself. Like the sims I've done of myself, it's still not looking as good as Blade of Wrath. Now, again, you have to bear in mind with Blade of Wrath, if you find yourself not always using the procs, then that devalues it as well. Because what a sim will tell you, a sim will work on the assumption that you're going to use all those procs. But if you might not. And but yeah, so far Blade of Wrath looks significantly over. But that's just for my character. So I don't know. But the other thing to bear in mind with your baseline Blade of Justice is not that much less damage than Templar's Verdict. And if you actually look at the tooltips, it looks like it's more damage than Templar's Verdict, but it's physical damage, whereas Templar's Verdict is holy damage. So you have to take account of the armor of the boss. But even when you take account of the armor, it's still very high damage of Blade of Justice, especially with all the traits we've got now. So, and I suppose especially if anyone had any relics that buff Blade of Justice as well, you don't want to be missing out on any procs on that. But at the moment, we're not gonna, unless you haven't got much choice for legendaries, you're not going to want to take the Divine Purpose one. It's not looking weak, but it's not looking strong enough to take if you've got the other options. In Simcraft, in the options player skill, what have set it on? Oh, there's no point. Yeah, there is an option in Simcraft to change player skill. There is no point in using that at all. Even the people that sort of do stuff for Simcraft say there's no point in it. It's artificial. It doesn't actually model, like when you do it on the lower skill settings, it doesn't model a low... Because you've got to think about it this way. For someone who's... It already takes... The people who do stuff for Simcraft do it... They're already spending so many hours gathering data and trying to model the stuff and put it on there. And they're doing it for really good players as well. So what is in it for them to actually try and model a player who doesn't play well? There isn't a lot. So all it actually... I can't even remember what it does, the different settings. It just does stupid things, though, that are not realistic. So you just use the elite setting, just use the top setting. And just... the only solution is to try and play like that. I mean, there's only so many people that can play flawlessly. I certainly don't play flawlessly. But I'd still use that setting, because I'd still aim to. Length and iterations. Iterations, it varies. I tend to try and use about 25,000. But the length depends on what fight I'm trying to model. I try and do it for round about the length that I expect that fight to last. So that varies. And it is an expectation, because I don't usually sim it for fights that are on farm, because I don't care. As soon as a fight's on farm, I don't give a monkeys about it. I don't care if I finish bottom of damage, I don't care. It's the ones that I'm progressing on. So at the moment, the only one I care about is Gul'dan, because although it is on farm as well, it's not an easy farm. We still want to, do as much damage as possible. And that fight lasts about between, well, it presumably will not last quite, maybe between 10 and 12 minutes, let's say. So I would tend to put it on for 10-minute duration. But even then, you can't model it perfectly, because I use Convergence of Fate, for example, and the sim will assume that I'm going to use my cooldown as soon as it's available. But there's at least one part of the fight on Gul'dan where I have to hold on to it, even though I'm using Cough, which you wouldn't normally want to do. Use the good setting to account for heavy movement fights. And well, no, you can account for heavy movement fights by setting it on heavy movement fight. Because I think the different skill ones actually do stupid things. that don't. I think they. I can't remember what they do now, but I seem to remember thinking when I was told what it actually does. Oh yeah, you don't ever want to use that. Do I find that my DPS is approximately equal to my simmed DPS? I have no idea. I don't use it to try and work out, because none of these. It's not possible to come up with a setting on Simcraft that will accurately model any difficult fight, because they're never quite the same. Like, as I say, for example, take Mythic Gul'dan. You've got phase 1, okay, which is essentially Beast Lord, but sometimes you will get thrown out with Bonds of Fel. Well, that's going to knacker your DPS. If it does it at the same time as your DPS cooldowns are going, it's going to knacker it still further. Then phase 2, it's light movement, because there's certain times where you've got to move away. For the storm, that's when everyone's got to move away. But then there might be other times when you've got to move out for the fire. And then there's another time when you're switching add as well. So you might have to move a little bit close to get to that add, especially if you're melee. Very difficult to model that as well, but that's a whole different set of conditions. So you can't accurately model any difficult fight. So there's no point in comparing. But I only use Simcraft to see which will give me the most damage between different gear sets, really, or talents or something like that. But in terms of trying to meet that Sim DPS value, I don't even look at it. There's no point. The skill settings start using generators when you have full holy power. Oh, is that what they do? And waiting between casts. Yeah, okay. Oh, using verdict during cleave or storm on similar target. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I did remember it was the sort of thing that's not realistic. On Gul'dan, do I use Divine Shield to cancel one of the storms? No. I do on Heroic. If it's nearly dead and I've got Crusade up, I'm not going anywhere. On Mythic, there are actually genuinely dangerous situations you could be in where you don't want to be using your bubble just to maximize DPS, because then you haven't got it if someone drops fire underneath you, or if you have a bad and you have to, or if you have to soak in the well. I mean, we might have to start doing that again. For most of Progress, I was actually soaking in the well, and sometimes you do end up taking too much damage because it's really iffy. But then we ended up with 2 rogues who could soak it easily. But now that we're not going to have that, I'm probably going to end up soaking again. So, no, I'm not using... On a fight where I might have to use bubble to stop myself dying, I'm not going to use it just to increase my DPS a little bit. But you can use it on storm. But so I use it on heroic. Whatever storm happens to have my crusade going on it. Well, no one likes moving out when they've got cooldowns. But there are certain classes that do no damage when they haven't got their cooldowns up. So if you're going to tell, if they have to move out when they've got cooldowns up, it's, you know, it's a bit dodgy. Or someone's trying to contact me in game. I don't know what that's about. Never mind. Sort that out later. Probably someone asking for Mythic Plus. Yeah, one of the phases in Heroic, he does his storm and spawns the eye just after on the other side. Yeah, I mean, that happens in Mythic as well. So what we need for that is a roar to get to the other side. Or, I suppose, a gateway. We had to progress without a warlock, though, so we used a roar. I suppose we'd have a gateway now, potentially. Maybe. If we took the warlock. So clicked away. Sorry, someone was trying to contact me on Battle.net. You didn't have a lock or a roar, just had to run back. Well, yeah. I mean, we've sometimes had to do that even on Mythic, if the druid either forgot to roar or used their roar elsewhere and didn't have it. So sometimes you have to. But obviously, that eye wants to die as quickly as possible. And on Mythic, you can't really afford things to duplicate. I mean, on Heroic, you know, if it duplicates, it's annoying, but, you know, a lot of the time it will. I mean, when we did it, like, initially, obviously it's not going to now, we've got so much gear. But when we were initially doing it, it was standard that the empowered eyes, especially, would probably duplicate. But on Mythic, you don't want them to. They do enough damage without that. But yeah, in answer to that, no, I'm not going to use. If I'm going to need to use a defensive as a defensive, I don't use it offensively. At the same time, if I also don't feel I'm in any serious danger, then I will use them offensively. Yeah. It is nice being able to bubble and just stand still and say I'm not moving anywhere, going nowhere, me. Again, I'll wait a few more. We're coming up to around about the 2-hour mark, which is generally the time they're supposed to last. I know the past few, they've lasted a bit longer. Let's have a look. A couple of days ago, a buddy of mine simmed his Gnome Warrior. Not interested. Yeah, negative DPS. Doesn't surprise me. You like the combination of the crafted belt and the legendary boots. What, for solo stuff? Yeah. I imagine you solo... I sometimes use the legendary boots for like soloing world quests, usually along with the Kill Jaden's Burning Wish. And sometimes not, it just varies, depends what mood I'm in. I think my gear is at the point now where a lot of it, I don't really care what legendaries I'm using, because I tend to burn through everything. The biggest danger is if anyone decided to attack me in PvP. But most people don't, because most people will come off second best if they tried it. It gets funny when they put Bloodlust, getting from one spot to another in a blink. Yeah. It's a bit like, I suppose, Halls of Valor, when you get the speed buff from completing the, what is it, second and third boss. But it's too much for me. Like, I really don't like taking on those last two, like, Guardian things before you go up to Odin's room itself, because the speed is it's too fast. You're going too quickly. Really dodgy. But yeah, that's, during Bloodlust, I imagine it's a bit disconcerting having those. I've never really experienced it because I've never used the legendary boots during group PvE. Do I think Convergence of Fates will be used regularly through Tomb? I do. I think you will want to get a nice Titan Forged. If you manage to get yourself a nice high item level Convergence of Fates, yes, we want that. The trinkets review, but I don't recall which ones do you deem to be best. I don't know, because I'm not touching the numbers. The numbers will change. I don't want to say anything about the numbers. The only one I think I suggested in the video that is you would assume will be the likely one that people will want will be the Betrayer. That's the one that at the moment is looking quite good, and because it drops off the last boss, you would probably expect it's going to be quite good. But even that depends on circumstances. Like if you imagine, because the way that the Spectre of the Betrayer, whatever it's called, so you pop it, so you get your little ad come up, it does its thing for 3 seconds. Then 45 seconds later, you pop another one, and then the first one does its thing again. But if in that time you've had to move, the boss has moved, and you've moved with it, your ad is over somewhere where when it does its pulse in AoE, it's not going to do any damage to anything, because everything's out of range. So even then, it will depend. You know, all of those trinkets look annoying to me in some way or the other. All of them look like a source of frustration. Let's have a look. Nerf the drop. Hold on, what have I missed? You've got a 905 Convergence of Fates from the shards. Okay. I've got a baseline mythic one, but we're going to want a higher item level one than that. Otherwise, yeah, we won't be using it through Tomb. We'll be using it to start with, but as we start to get better Tomb ones, we'll be using those. But if we can, you know, for people who keep doing Elisand and Gul'dan for the mount, I mean, this is a tricky issue that we have got to handle in the guild. We want, obviously we want to get the mounts for everyone. So we need to keep doing it each week, and we're going to need to keep doing it each week for some time. But we don't, obviously, as soon as Tomb of Sargeras comes out, want to be using raid time for it when we need to be progressing through Mythic. So we're going to need a time during the week when we just go quickly to kill those 2 bosses off. So that should give opportunities for getting a nice Titan Forge. And obviously, as soon as 7.2.5 comes out, it can Titan Forge above 925 as well. But again, you're having to be lucky. But it'll still be a good trinket. It is mainly the effects of Convergence of Fates, yes, but don't downplay the effect of the stats on it as well. Danger for burnout increases. I don't think there's going to be an increased danger of burnout. I think there'll be a less chance of burnout because of the changes, again, that they're making to Mythic Plus and stuff like that. There is a danger of people deciding that going outside where there are skimpily dressed ladies is a bigger draw than raiding, and doing the stuff outside of raids that you still have to do. Because even though I think they'll make it easier to get the AP you need without having to do lots and lots, it is still a fact that you cannot just be logging on for raids now. There is stuff to do outside of raids. So there is that danger. I don't think it's a burnout danger. I think it's just... I think now, if people burn themselves out now, you could understand it earlier in the expansion, but if they're doing it now, they're doing it for no reason. They don't need to do loads now. I don't do loads, and I'm keeping up fine. What are my thoughts on the new legendaries? I did a video on that just today. So I have a video on my YouTube channel just hot off the press today where I talked about the new legendaries. For Rets, of course. I'm not going to talk about it for anyone else. Do I think they'll implement a new reroll coin type for Tomb? They may. I actually haven't heard them say anything about that. It is possible, which I won't mind at all, because it will mean I will still be able to use the other coins. The question is, where would you get the other coins from? Maybe like in previous ones we could just buy it off a vendor for something. Maybe order resources. And then I can keep using my coins on Elisand. Yeah, I cocked up with the Nether Disruptor this week. I only got 2 coins on my Ret from it. I forgot to get the 3rd. I didn't get any on my Hunter. Felt so stupid when I realised it's been destroyed. It was destroyed yesterday, I think. Follow on YouTube, I don't see a link there. Oh, here on Twitch for your channel. No, I need to sort out my Twitch stuff. Like, I've only recently started an actual streaming schedule, a proper one. I do need to set it up so that there are links from here to other stuff as well. It's just, I suppose at the moment I'm expecting people to come from YouTube to here rather than people to find me on Twitch. Because I'm not, you know, I don't expect people to find me on Twitch at the moment. But yes, I should still set it up so it's all properly linked. Any chance they'll rework the level 100 talents? No. None at all. Or well, you can never say none at all, because you never know what mad ideas they've got brewing. But there's no point. Like Holy Wrath, they defended it so strongly. They went out on such a limb to defend it that they're just going to lose face if they get rid of it now. So it will just be quietly got rid of, I think, for the next expansion. I think we accept now that Crusade is the talent to take in that last row, and in any circumstances, and that's just it. That's all there is to it. So even though I know they keep saying that there should never be a row where there's this talent which you always take. But that, I think, just applies to other classes. I don't think it applies to us. No, well, I don't think Helinka's fault. Tom Chilton, Calgan, he is the one who, and he was the game director at the time, he really strongly defended it. And then Celestalon also, like his good little lapdog, defended it quite strongly as well. Maybe Holy Wrath feels good to play. I don't see what feels good about trying to almost kill yourself. This was a fear. There was a genuine fear during Alpha that it might end up being Abyss talent under certain circumstances. And at that point, you're then basically saying to your raid or to the healers, don't heal me for a minute. I'll tell you when. Don't heal me. I need to get myself down to like 15% health. Then I'll blow this thing up. Now you can heal me. I don't think people are going to like that. Because there were even talk. My idea for it was to, when you run in, instead of letting the tank get hold of the boss, I would get hold of the boss first of all. Pop me Divine Intervention. Tell the healers not to heal me. Use Holy Wrath. Then they could heal me up. Could you imagine trying to say to your raid that that's how we're going to pull bosses? I don't think they would have liked it. I do think I'm the only Twitcher that purely discussed WoW stuff, and I may be, I don't know. I think Blizzard do as well, actually, but they don't do it as frequently. Maybe they had the combo in mind of Divine Intervention plus Holy Wrath. There was something. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to now remember what it was like. They both went through several things. But I can't. Because Divine Intervention was 2.5 minutes under the old system, like, and now it's 4. It went through so many changes, but you know, to try and dissociate them, I think. But I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and actually watch my video updates on during Alpha, which I can't be bothered to do now. I guess the wrist legendaries would help. Yeah, I got that as my second legendary, actually, the wrists. Which in the end helps me get rank 1 on our first Cenarian kill. Because it all went to shit at the end of that fight. But yeah, that is another thing. But it's just such a nightmare. It's already bad enough as a paladin that we are encouraged from a role-playing point of view. We're supposed to want our colleagues to die because that buffs our damage. So to also make us suicide, I mean, I don't see paladins as being a suicidal class in the lore, really. So, and that's what Holy Wrath makes you. It makes you suicidal. No, well, mostly, of course, Blizz are obviously using it as a marketing tool. So obviously they're going to pick the question. But they do answer genuine questions. It's just that they pick which ones they're going to be. Oh no, someone else is trying to contact me on Battle.net now. There was something there. I'm trying to remember how Holy Wrath. Well, obviously they nerfed it very severely for PvP because people were all doing all sorts of mad things in PvP with it. But I actually used it for leveling a little bit as well during the alpha, not when it actually came out. Because if you got into a sticky situation, it was quite a good way of finishing some mobs off you. If you pulled too much, like if you pulled more than you should have done. They could just straight up AoE 5 targets damage. I don't know. It used to be, of course, not in its current iteration, but Holy Wrath, of course, was a protection ability before. And that's all it did. It just did AoE. Have I checked the uptime on Concordance? Not offhand, no. I did have it during last week's raid, but I didn't really check it. It is quite... No, it's supposed to be fairly high. It does proc a lot. I'm not tracking the procs because I don't really see any value in doing that, because I get no say over it and I'm not going to save anything for it. But, you know, I do notice it does proc a fair amount. Yeah, they buffed the amount of strength you get from it. I don't know if they buffed the proc rate as well, but I think even before this week, people in my guild who were getting the Concordance first, and they got it several weeks ago, they were saying that it procs all the time, even then. Okay, I didn't know that. I knew they buffed obviously the output, the actual stat. But yeah, it does. It procs a fair amount. It's a reliable proc, so it's decent. But obviously, you only really need the first main one, and then you just pick up the others as and when. I can't remember what it... I'd have to look at my logs to see what it was last week when I was using it. Because like I say, it's not really something for me to be too worried about. Because it just if it happens, it happens. If it happens at a good time, it happens at a good time. And if it happens at a bad time, then that's all there is to it. Yeah, you could check it on SCADA as well. No, it's no good. That's what point. That's why I'm not tracking it. Because you're not going to save anything for it. Because I mean, the thing is as well, when you use Crusade, I mean, what's the point of waiting anyway? Because when you pop Crusade, it doesn't do anything for you anyway for the first few seconds. You've got to build up your stacks, by which time it'll have faded off. Whereas there's every chance, if it hasn't procced and you pop Crusade, it might actually proc for your higher stacks, which is where you want it anyway. So there's nothing you can save for it. No point. So that's, as I say, that's why I don't track it, because I don't need to. I don't need to know when it's gone off, because it's not going to change my behaviour in any way. Anyway, I'll wait a few more minutes if there's any other questions. And I'll say we'll start to sort of wind it down now a bit, I think. And there's especially, it looks like I need to go off and talk to some people. Because I'm getting people whispering me messages from Battle.net. I think one of them might be about recruitment. Nope. Okay. So I'll call it there then. Thanks very much for coming. As I say, we'll be doing this each Tuesday if anyone's just come on for the first time today. I will also be streaming tomorrow, but at the same time, be 7 PM. Obviously, it'll go on a little bit longer. There is a break in the middle of it as well. So I should be able to actually stream my raiding. So you won't be able to hear any of the Discord stuff. So that means it should be possible. And because it's farm, it should be possible for me to sort of speak as well. There are a couple of obviously going to be teething issues with it. One is which I'm not expected to be in on every boss, because I don't need every boss, and some people do. So I'm not going to sort of force myself in when other people need it. So there may be a time we'll probably just chat then at that point. I'm not going to bother leaving the raid and doing world quests or anything. And also, I just need to make sure that I can quickly, I know which button to press, to turn off the microphone. So there'll be certain times we won't be able to hear me either if I have to go up to the officer chat. But anyway, thanks for coming. Yeah, I'll see you next week or tomorrow. And again, I'll be doing the usual Saturday afternoon stream as well. But that'll be for Elder Scrolls Online. But you can still talk about whatever. See you later.